The 7 levels of Sith, from dark side warriors to immortal gods. They promised themselves power. What they got was an addiction they couldn't survive. Across thousands of years of galactic history, 7 Sith Lords stand as monuments to what the dark side truly offers. Not freedom, but escalating hunger. Each believed they'd found the answer. The final technique, the ultimate ritual, the perfect balance between power and control. Each was wrong. The Jedi feared the Sith because of their strength. They should have feared them because of their desperation. This isn't a story about villains becoming heroes. It's a documented examination of what happens when beings pursue power without limits, using both canonical Star Wars films and Legends continuity sources to track the progression from talented Force users to literal wounds in reality itself. What you're about to discover isn't ranked by raw strength alone. These 7 levels represent stages of transformation, each one sacrificing something fundamental in exchange for abilities that previous generations thought impossible. By the end, you'll understand why the most powerful Sith Lord in history, after consuming entire worlds and ruling for over 15 centuries, discovered that even godhood couldn't satisfy the void he'd created within himself. The dark side doesn't lie about offering power. It lies about whether that power will ever be enough. To Level 1, the tool, Asajj Ventress, Dark Side Assassin. Asajj Ventress represents the Foundation, a Force user with genuine talent who serves the dark side without being granted its highest title. During the Clone Wars, she operated as Count Dooku's most lethal operative, combining Night Sister magic with Sith combat techniques to create a fighting style the Jedi hadn't trained to counter. Her canonical appearances in the Clone Wars animated series establish her combat prowess. She wielded twin curved lightsabers with precision, matching Jedi masters like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker in single combat. Her Dathomirian heritage gave her access to Night Sister sorcery, illusions, enhanced speed, and Force-enhanced invisibility that supplemented traditional lightsaber forms. She mixed Form 2, Makashi precision, with Form 5, Gem-So aggression, creating unpredictable combinations that exploited standard Jedi defensive patterns. But Ventress was never a true Sith. The rule of 2, established by Darth Bane approximately 1,000 years before the Clone Wars, permitted only one master and one apprentice at any time. Count Dooku already served Darth Sidious. Ventress was a tool, expendable the moment she became inconvenient. Season 3, Episode 12, Night Sisters, documents her betrayal. During a battle in the Sullust system, Sidious senses her growing power and orders Dooku to eliminate her. The Count abandons her mid-combat, commanding his fleet to fire on the command ship, where she fights alongside Anakin and Obi-Wan. She survives, but the betrayal exposes the fundamental truth. Her abilities had always belonged to someone else. When the Night Sisters of Dathomir take her in and heal her wounds, she strikes back using magic-enhanced stealth and poison, nearly killing Dooku in his fortress on Sereno. Despite her skill, she fails. Tools, no matter how sharp, eventually break when used against their makers. Ventress drew on the dark side with precision and discipline, but never for her own purpose. A dark side warrior operating outside the Sith hierarchy, powerful, but never granted autonomy or true status. Level 2. The Weapon. Darth Maul. Hatred made physical. Darth Maul embodied the next evolution, a being forged from childhood to be pure aggression incarnate. Where Ventress had known other paths before choosing darkness, Maul knew nothing but the dark side from his earliest memories. According to the Legends novel, The Wrath of Darth Maul, Sidious raised him on Mustafar in complete isolation, subjecting him to brutal training that transformed a Dathomirian boy into an instrument of focused rage. His combat style reflected this singular purpose. During the Battle of Naboo, documented in the canonical film The Phantom Menace, 1999, Maul engaged 2 Jedi Masters simultaneously using his double-bladed lightsaber. His acrobatic technique turned lightsaber dueling into overwhelming offensive pressure, attacking from multiple angles at once. He struck down Qui-Gon Jinn before Obi-Wan Kenobi bisected him and sent both halves down a reactor shaft. By every conventional measure, Maul should have died. His body was destroyed, his connection to his master severed. Yet hatred wouldn't permit death. Canon sources pick up his story over a decade later in The Clone Wars Season 4, Episode 21, Brothers. That hatred sustained consciousness as he fell thousands of meters through the reactor shaft, held his shattered organs together as his body crashed onto the junk world of Lotho Minor. For over 10 years, Maul existed in subterranean tunnels, his fractured mind constructing crude mechanical legs from salvaged droid parts. He transformed himself into a spider-like creature, surviving on vermin and the occasional unlucky scavenger. His connection to the Force remained twisted and raw, feeding on rage while offering nothing except the strength to endure another day of madness. When Savage Opress finally located him, Maul was barely sentient, muttering broken phrases about hunting and worthlessness. He unable to form coherent thoughts. Mother Talzin's Night Sister magic eventually restored his mind and gave him new legs. But the damage ran deeper than missing limbs. He'd survived through hatred alone, proving that pure emotional intensity could overcome impossible odds, but he couldn't build anything with it. When he briefly seized control of Mandalore, The Clone Wars Season 5, Episode 16, The Lawless, Sidious personally arrived to crush those ambitions, demonstrating that survival through rage had limits. Maul remained a weapon, not a true master. Level 3. The Crippled Chosen One, Darth Vader. Restrained potential. Anakin Skywalker became Darth Vader with raw force potential, exceeding almost anyone in galactic history. The canonical transformation occurs in Revenge of the Sith, 2005, following his defeat on Mustafar. But the Legends novel Dark Lord, The Rise of Darth Vader reveals what the armor truly cost him and what power remained. Vader's force abilities stayed staggering despite catastrophic injuries. He could force-choke admirals across vast distances without physical contact, reaching through hyperspace to crush windpipes on distant star destroyers. The Legends novel, Lords of the Sith, describes how he projected waves of terror through the Force that drove enemy soldiers to panic and flee. When boarding rebel vessels, his presence in the Force preceded him like advancing darkness, announcing arrival before igniting his lightsaber. In lightsaber combat, his modified Form 5 technique, Digem So, combined overwhelming strength with brutal efficiency. The 2016 canonical comic Darth Vader #1 shows him cutting through squads of soldiers with ruthless precision, his crimson blade deflecting blaster fire and severing limbs with equal ease. His rage fueled strength that made him the Empire's ultimate enforcer. When he arrived on a world, resistance collapsed. When he boarded a ship, crews surrendered rather than face him. Yet the suit that saved his life became his prison. Chapter 2 of Dark Lord, The Rise of Darth Vader, details the respirator connecting directly to damaged lungs through tubes in his throat, cables from his chest control box regulating heartbeat and maintaining the pressurized environment his ruined body required. The medical droids used inferior alloys for prosthetic legs and improperly sealed joints, protecting neural connections, to creating constant background pain that fueled his rage while limiting mobility. The armor's weight restricted his acrobatic capabilities. Where Anakin Skywalker had combined aerial flips with aggressive blade work, Vader relied on overwhelming power and endurance. Emperor Palpatine, Darth Sidious, designed these limitations deliberately. The suit used outdated technology vulnerable to Force lightning, ensuring Vader could never successfully challenge his master. The Chosen One, who should have surpassed every Sith in history, became a powerful enforcer trapped by the very apparatus keeping him alive, demonstrating that even extraordinary potential meant nothing when contained by deliberate design. Level 4. The Architect, Darth Sidious, Emperor Palpatine. Orchestrated galactic domination. Darth Sidious represents the culmination of Darth Bane's thousand-year plan, a Sith Lord who achieved what generations before him only dreamed about: the complete destruction of the Jedi Order and absolute control of the galaxy. Where previous Sith relied on military conquest or raw force power, Sidious weaponized patience, manipulation, and systemic corruption. His rise is documented across the prequel trilogy: The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith. As Senator Palpatine of Naboo, he orchestrated the Trade Federation's blockade of his own homeworld, creating the crisis that elevated him to Supreme Chancellor. For 13 years, he simultaneously led the Republic and controlled the separatist movement through his apprentice Count Dooku, engineering a war that gave him emergency powers and positioned clone troopers throughout the galaxy. Revenge of the Sith shows the execution of Order 66, a single command that activated inhibitor chips in clone troopers' brains, turning the Republic's army against their Jedi generals. Within hours, thousands of Jedi died across the galaxy. The few survivors went into hiding, their order shattered. Sidious transformed the Republic into the Galactic Empire through manipulation so complete that the Senate applauded its own enslavement with thunderous applause. His Force abilities matched his political genius. The Legends novel, Darth Plagueis, reveals his mastery of Force lightning so refined he could target specific organs or nervous systems, causing maximum pain without immediate death. His battle against Jedi Masters Mace Windu, Kit Fisto, Saesee Tiin, and Agen Kolar, Revenge of the Sith, demonstrates his lightsaber prowess, killing 3 council members in seconds using Form 7, Juyo, the most aggressive combat style. But Sidious's greatest strength was sustainability. Unlike previous Sith, who burned bright and died young, he built an infrastructure of control: the imperial bureaucracy, regional governors, the Death Star's terror doctrine. He ruled for over 2 decades, maintaining power not through personal combat, but through systems that functioned without his constant intervention. Yet even he discovered limits. His own apprentice, Darth Vader, killed him to save his son, Luke Skywalker, Return of the Jedi, 1983. The sequel trilogy reveals he survived through Sith sorcery and cloning, but required constant life support, his physical body deteriorating while his consciousness transferred between clone vessels. He'd achieved galactic dominance, but couldn't escape mortality's final claim. Level 5, The Consumer. Darth Nihilus, The Wound in the Force. Darth Nihilus existed entirely within Legends continuity, documented in the video game Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords, 2004, as something unprecedented: a Sith Lord who evolved beyond physical form into a living void that consumed Force energy itself. His origin traces to the destruction of Malachor V during the Mandalorian Wars, when the Mass Shadow Generator, a superweapon that collapsed the planet's gravity, killed almost everyone instantly. Nihilus survived, but the experience transformed him. The wound in the Force didn't just damage him, it fundamentally altered his relationship to existence. His body deteriorated until nothing remained except consciousness bound to armor and mask through Sith sorcery. The mask became his identity, an expressionless face that looked out as worlds died. His power operated on a scale conventional Sith abilities couldn't match. When the Miraluka colony on Katar gathered their entire species for a Jedi conclave, believing themselves hidden and protected by the Force, Nihilus arrived in orbit aboard the Ravager. He didn't deploy troops or bombard the surface. He simply reached out through the Force and fed. Every living being on Katar died in moments, not killed, but consumed. The planet became a mass grave of thousands of corpses lying where they'd fallen, their deaths so sudden they had no time to react. This ability made him the most destructive Sith in recorded history. Other Sith Lords conquered planets through military might. Nihilus extinguished all life with a thought. He existed as a wound in the Force itself, a living black hole that hungered for Force energy the way gravity wells hunger for matter. But his power came with a terrible price. He couldn't communicate normally, his speech becoming incomprehensible except to his apprentice Visas Mar. He couldn't interact with the galaxy except through consumption. Every world he drained left him stronger, but never satisfied. The hunger grew with every meal, on demanding more until nothing less than draining the force from the entire galaxy would suffice. When Visas Mar turned against him and brought the Jedi exile Mitra Surik to confront him, Nihilus discovered his power was useless against her. Surik was a wound in the Force like him, already empty and cut off. He tried to drain her and found nothing to consume. His insatiable hunger became his downfall. He'd proven that even becoming a force of nature had limits. Level 6. The Ritual Master. Darth Bane, Architect of Sith Evolution. Darth Bane doesn't rank on this list for raw power, he ranks for fundamentally changing what it meant to be Sith. According to the Legends novel trilogy by Drew Karpyshyn, Path of Destruction, Rule of Two, Dynasty of Evil, Sonti and Bane witnessed the Brotherhood of Darkness, an army of Sith Lords, tear itself apart through infighting, betrayal, and the inevitable chaos that comes when dozens of power-hungry Force users compete for dominance. His solution was radical: the rule of two. Only one master and one apprentice could exist at any time. The master embodied power. The apprentice craved it. When the apprentice grew strong enough to kill the master, they would take an apprentice of their own, ensuring each generation grew stronger instead of weaker. This wasn't just philosophy. It was evolutionary pressure weaponized through murder. Bane's implementation was ruthless. He manipulated the Brotherhood of Darkness into gathering on Ruusan, then triggered the Thought Bomb, a Force weapon that killed every Force-sensitive being in range, destroying both Jedi and Sith. He alone survived, rebuilding the Sith as a secret order that would manipulate galactic events from the shadows for the next 1,000 years. His personal power was formidable. He mastered Sith sorcery, creating a suit of orbalisks, parasitic creatures that bonded to his skin, feeding on dark side energy while providing near-impenetrable armor. He developed techniques for extending life through the Force, though not achieving true immortality. But Bane's greatest achievement wasn't his personal abilities, it was creating a system that outlasted him. Every Sith Lord from Bane to Sidious followed his rule of two, each generation adding knowledge and power to the lineage. Darth Plagueis researched midi-chlorian manipulation. Darth Sidious achieved galactic domination. Darth Vader bridged the gap between old and new. See, all possible because Bane understood that Sith self-destruction was the real enemy, not the Jedi. The rule of two worked so well that it nearly succeeded in permanently eradicating the Jedi and controlling the galaxy forever. Bane didn't need to be the most powerful Sith. He needed to create the conditions for future Sith to achieve what he could not. Level 7. The Immortal God. Vitiate Valkorion, the Eternal Emperor. The Sith Emperor, Vitiate, represents the ultimate evolution, consuming worlds through deliberate choice, to extend existence not for centuries, but millennia. Documented in the Old Republic Encyclopedia and the MMORPG Star Wars, The Old Republic, he achieved what every Sith dreamed: functional immortality and absolute power. Born as Tenebrae on Nathema, his dark side power was so overwhelming that by age 6 he ruled his village through terror. At 10, he killed his Sith Lord father. At 13, he conquered his homeworld and earned the title Lord Vitiate from Marka Ragnos. For the next century, he delved into dark side rituals while the galaxy forgot him. When the Sith Empire collapsed after the Great Hyperspace War, Vitiate summoned every surviving Sith Lord to Nathema. 8,000 answered. He promised unity through a ritual that would bind them together. The ritual lasted 10 days. For 9 days, he linked their minds and power to his will. Dark side energy gathered around Nathema, visible from orbit, as storm clouds pulsing with crimson lightning. On the final day, the planet screamed. Vitiate consumed every Sith Lord's life force, 8,000 beings, followed by every living creature, plant, and microorganism. Death spread across the surface in a wave of annihilation. He emerged transformed, life energy extending his existence indefinitely, while Nathema became a lifeless husk. He rebuilt the Sith Empire in secret for 3 centuries, then launched war that brought the Republic to its knees. But ruling wasn't enough. He discovered the Eternal Fleet on Zakuul and created a new identity, Valkorion, immortal emperor of a civilization that worshipped him as a living god. The eternal throne he built could only be operated by his bloodline, controlling an armada that crushed both Republic and Sith Empire simultaneously. Yet after 1,500 years, consuming countless worlds and ruling multiple empires, he discovered the final truth. Even godhood brought no satisfaction. The rituals sustaining him required constant consumption, and with each feeding, his appetite grew. He'd achieved every imaginable goal. None satisfied the void within. What the Sith built always consumed them in the end.